My name is Jill Raymer, and this is my story. When I think about when I first had a relationship with Jesus, I really can't remember a time where I didn't. I think I always knew that I would grow up to love and to serve Jesus. And I think the rest of my journey has really been discovering what that means. What does it mean to follow Jesus? What does it mean to surrender my life to Him? Worship has always been how I connected to God. I think even as a small child, I would learn to sing, but singing and worshiping Jesus was sort of one and the same. And even in any time in my life when I was struggling, even to know what I was doing or what my purpose was, when I was standing before Jesus and giving Him praise, I've always known that I was fulfilling my greatest purpose. In my teens and even into my 20s, I really struggled with who I was, trying to figure out if I added value, if I had worth. Even though I still loved Jesus desperately, I really always felt like I was disappointing God and that what I had to offer was not good enough. After college, I got a job that I loved, and I quickly realized that when I was doing something that I was successful at, people liked me and that I could like myself as well. And so without realizing it, I created a world for myself where I avoided taking risks at all costs. When I looked at my life, though, I realized it didn't have joy. When I read the scriptures, it said that Jesus came to give us life and life to the fullest, and I knew that I wasn't living that. It was in a very difficult time in my life, I think, where everything that I had placed my identity in had been stripped away. I was forced to go back to Jesus and ask Him, who do you say that I am? And when I did that, He began to show me, and He began to show me that I am His, that I have worth because I belong to Him, and He desires that I offer all of myself to Him. And I found that joy and that hope that I was looking for. I found that the Jesus that I was so desperately in love with was also desperately in love with me, and that really changed everything for me. God invited me to take a big risk, and He invited me to take a 10-month leave of absence from work and to join MB Mission's Trek program, which had me serving in Thailand for 7.5 months. I went from living in a safe little world where I was pretty much guaranteed to be successful at everything because of how I limited what I would say yes to now living in a brand new culture where even ordering food is a challenge, or trying to get to a certain location when you don't have the language. And it was a stretching time for me. I was asked to serve in ways that I hadn't served before. And in my eyes, things that we were doing seemed to fail. We would have a baking class and our cookies would never turn out. I would teach a guitar lesson to children and we wouldn't share the same language, and I didn't know who would come. And so for me, it looked like a failure. It looked like an unorganized guitar class or an unorganized baking class. But we watched God work in spite of that. After I got back from Thailand, I was asking God the question, was that 10-month experience just something for me, or was there something more that He was calling me to? As part of that discernment process, I was discerned with leadership at MB Mission that I would be joining a team to go to Ukraine. And even though Thailand had been really on my heart, I felt like God had asked me to surrender Thailand and to go wherever He's calling. John and Evelyn Weens was a couple that had been serving there for 6 years, working with the church there, working especially with aged out orphans. And I was so excited to be able to join them. And I felt immediately that God had given me a passion to join that team. Shortly after my call to Ukraine, we found out that John had esophagus cancer, and that left me with a lot of questions. I was very confused. I was so sure that God had called me to Ukraine, and now there was a big obstacle in the way. I felt that God was calling me to pray for a miracle for John, and I believed that it wasn't too big for him. But in January, John passed away, and shortly after, it was discerned that I would not be able to go to Ukraine after all. I lived years in my comfort zone where I never got my heart broken because I didn't take those risks. And now I've taken those risks and gotten my heart broken. And it's easy to say, God, I told you this would happen. And ask, are you really sure if I risk again that I won't get my heart broken? But I've learned that God doesn't promise us that he invites us to love extravagantly, and to love completely. And that's the love that he gave us. And that's what he's calling us to. God is full of surprises. I grieve the loss of John, and I grieve the loss of the Ukraine dream. Having that door closed was not what I was praying for and not what I was hoping for. But I feel God's peace that he has definitely closed that door, and that he is going to invite me to something more, that he's closed doors and so he will open it. And the surprise is that the door that is sitting open before me right now is the chance to go back to Thailand and to serve there. And that's a confusing part of my story, because I don't understand why God didn't just open that door 6 months ago. The Ukraine journey has been a difficult one, but one that I wouldn't trade. And so I believe that God led me first to Ukraine and is now leading me towards Thailand. And even though it's scary to take that risk again, knowing that maybe it won't turn out, maybe I'll get my heart broken again, I just feel it's one that God is inviting me to. I'm excited to see what can happen if I continue to risk everything and to follow wherever he leads me.